I think, dali lang. Oh, pwede pala mag-pause recording. That's something I'm learning. You can pause recording in case, something happens. So we don't have to like stop recording then. So in this session, we've started the recording. So we'll start. Saan tayo nagtapos? Nagtapos tayo dito sa price equals marginal cost. And under price equals marginal cost, in Bertrand price competition oligopoly, we realized that this happened because of yung elasticity of demand based per firm is infinite. Okay, and that's why there's a pressure for everyone to race to marginal cost to essentially sell to everyone, to sell to the market. And also because the alternative, which is not to sell, will give you a profit of 0. Now, there are a couple of reasons that we would like to incorporate why that might not be true, which is first, products are not completely homogeneous. There's horizontal or vertical differentiation. And then there's capacity constraints by firms. So if one price is lower, that firm that price is lower cannot capture the entire market. So there's a limited elasticity of demand, or in a sense, in a limited substitution between the two firms that are offering the product. So let's first talk about capacity constraints. So if capacity is fixed, smaller than demand when price equals marginal cost. So quantity demand is sort of the largest efficient level when price equals marginal cost. Then price equals marginal cost cannot be Nash equilibrium. Oops, sorry. Suppose capacity constraints are also a choice variable. Then it becomes a two-stage game with firms first selecting capacities and then competing on price. Okay. So imagine this is sort of, again, an extension already of the Bertrand or even the Corno. Now, may two-stage game tayo. First, firms are selecting their capacities to produce. How much can they produce? Right, that's a capacity. And then once they decided on their capacities, then they're competing in price. So the Nash equilibrium in this two-stage game will resemble the Corno-Nash, which we've already studied. Okay. So let's say that there are two firms, P and S, selling tickets. Okay. Total market demand is 4,200 at a price of 30. Okay. So the joint capacity is 36. So kung 36 in joint capacity, we're going to say that each firm's capacity is 1,800, which is this one. Okay. We can also check that if the price is 30, P times 60 is 1,800. So 6,000 minus 1,800 is 4,200. Okay, so in our discussion of capacity constraints, we are going to say that the ones who will get served first are the ones with the highest willingness to pay. Okay, so this is an assumption. So in real life, that's not necessarily going to happen. Okay, because this is just like a list. If we understand the demand curve here to be a listing of like individual consumers with different willingness to pay, right? It really depends on who gets to be in line first, diba? Since not every one of these people will be served at a price, say, of 30, right? So some of them will be served and some of them will not be served. That's for sure. The only question is, sino yung mabebentahan at sino yung hindi? So you might imagine in real life, there's like this line and everyone will queue up, and then the people who are first in line, they will get served. Yeah. But here we will say, we are going to assume an efficient rationing assumption. So that means that in this situation where the price is 30 and the total quantity demand is 42, sino yung masaserve? These people will be served and these people will not. Okay. All of these people are willing to pay price 30 here. But then these people will not be served. And the people here with the highest willingness to pay from quantity 3,000. So a person who is this person, for example, 3,600. His willingness to pay is somewhere above 30. And it's only people who are willing to pay above this number and including that number. Those are the ones who will be served. So you can imagine a situation na nakapila sila and then the person, the company running the line will say, okay, let's order it in terms of willingness to pay, which is not entirely, in the moment, it's not entirely realistic. But you can imagine certain mechanisms that will elicit this. Like, unahin natin muna yung mga matataas na willingness to pay and then so on and so forth. Oh, sorry. Okay, so given this situation, only these people are served and these people are not served, right? The marginal cost is 10. If the price equals MC, then rationing is present. If one tries to undercut, each firm cannot increase their profits as each is already capacity constrained, even as they share in the market. So in this situation, the price is 30, marginal cost nila is less than 10. They would like to lower their price, right? But they cannot because the total capacity is 36. Each one is 1/8, and it's a name limit, right? Okay. So that's where we're at. So any questions about the setup for capacity constraints? Okay. Okay. So first, let's try to solve this example. So I want everyone to do it at the same time. Consider price equals 40. Okay. So nakasulat na siya dito. Okay. Consider price equals 40. So where here the market demand is 3,600, which equals joint capacity. Okay. So first, I want everyone to prove that, to show that. Show to me that at price equals 40, the total demand is 3,600. So can someone write down on the chat that this is in fact correct math? Because that's important moving forward. May sumagot sa chat. Okay, sabi ni Leland, 6,000 minus, what is this? Sorry. 6,000 minus 60 times 40, which is 36. So we're exactly correct, right? So we've chosen this as our candidate starting Nash equilibrium here. So P is equal to 40. So any guesses as to why we chose price is equal to 40, which leads into a quantity demand of 3,600? Any guesses first? So why did we choose price is equal to 40 in this case? Okay, sabi ni Leland, yes, firms produce at their maximum capacity if quantity equals 36. Because we've already said in quantity per firm is 1/8. And 1/8 times 2 is 36. So that's also quite important because both firms are essentially symmetric, right? So that's why we're starting at a symmetric equilibrium. Everyone has the same capacity. And we're just doubling it. And that's how we got the 3.6. And that's where we got the 440. Okay. Okay, so we'll try to investigate if this is a Nash equilibrium, right? If there's no first stage, then price is equal to 40 as a Nash equilibrium. Because MC becomes vertical at quantity 1 is equal to 1,800 and MR is equal to MC at 40. So MC becomes vertical at 1,800 because yun yung capacity niya. There's no way for it to expand, right? That's first. Second is I want everyone to derive this demand, residual demand and residual marginal revenue, which is already drawn here. Okay. So my first question to everyone is, given the fact that the other firm is producing 1,800, what is the marginal revenue for what? First of all, what is the residual demand for a firm where its competition, the other firm, is producing 1,800? So I want people to show that. Nga pala, are the mics still off? Ayaw pa rin? I need to solve this thing if it's true. Wala pa rin nakaka-use ng mic. Or nagma-mic pero hindi ko naririnig. Kasi wala pa rin ako naririnig. I suppose since wala akong naririnig, your mics aren't working? Pa-confirm?
Hello. Good afternoon po. Sir, can you hear me po?
So is someone trying their mics and people are hearing it? Yes or no? Or on the chat? Okay. So it's still not working. I still need to investigate why this is the case. So I will try to fix this after class today because kailangan talagang makakapag-usap tayo. This cannot be. I'm not quite sure why this isn't working. So we might have to change, I don't know, something. I might have to reinstall something, come up with a new meeting room. So we'll play it by ear and I'll work with some UPSE people to check kung bakit. But this is not a good idea. Anyway, luckily we can do it by chat. At least ito. Okay. So can someone derive yung residual demand faced by a firm when its competitor is committed to or can only produce 1,800? Okay. So this came from before, last week, right? Thursday. We were just talking about how to compute for residual demand. And here it's exactly the same. What's your residual demand?
She Maggie. Go na. Ano? Yun ba yan?
Maglilipat lang ng kwarto. Okay, nakalipat na ako. Still no idea what residual demand is in this case. Can't seem to fix it here on the thing. Wala namang problema yung settings ko. Interesting. So Leland is almost there. So why don't we start with Leland? Leland said 6,000 minus 60 times P. So what do you do with that? That's the demand function, yeah? So what do you do with the demand function to make it the residual demand? You subtract what? The output of the other one. Yeah. Or at least the guessed output, right? Yeah, your guess is the output of the other one. So in this case, the output of the other one at that price, 40, is what? Okay. Great, Jacob, right? So ano yung residual demand in that case? I'm trying to take this slow because this is super important and this will come up again and again. As you can see, right? So no, residual demand is essentially what you are, what each firm in a Corno game, or even as you will see, even in a Bertrand game, is sort of maximizing against. So understanding residual demand is kind of important. Sabi ni Jacob, 1/8 din po ba, sir? Right? Okay. That's the quantity demanded at that price. But what is the residual demand curve? That's the issue. In order to draw this one, in order to draw this one, which is what we're saying is the residual demand curve, kailangan natin ng function. So ano yung function na yun? Yes, kasi you subtracted it, right? 6,000 minus 1/8 equals 4,2. So tama si Kingsley. That's it, right? And in particular, how do we draw this one? You get the inverse demand. So can someone give me the inverse demand related to that residual demand? Almost there. Okay, good. Well, that's divided by 60, yeah? Yeah. Now, 4,200 divided by 60, if you use your calculator, that's 70. So that's why the intercept here is 70. And the slope is 1/60. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so that's something that everyone, once you know what the other person, once a firm has a guess as to what the other one will do, then he can figure out what his residual demand function is, right? And then once you figure that out, you can figure out what the residual inverse demand function is. Okay, so now that we have that, ano yung residual marginal revenue? Because remember, it's easier to get the marginal revenue from the inverse demand. That's why in all of our, since the start, we've been doing inverse demand as opposed to direct demand. So what's our marginal revenue? Okay. So it's 70 minus Q over 30 because it's twice as steep. Diba? So 2 times 1/60 is simply 1/30. So correct. So this and this hopefully are sort of like graphical representations of that, no? Okay. So when marginal revenue is that, okay, ano ang ating marginal cost? It's 10. Okay. Now, maybe I should write this down now. Text box. MR equals 70 minus Q over 30 equals marginal cost, which is 10. And what's that? 60 equals Q over 30. Inikot ko lang. Basically, I move the 10 to the other side, then I move the minus Q over 30 to the other side, and that will give you Q is equal to 1,800, which is exactly equal to the guessed, the hypothesized output, which happens to be equal to the capacity. Okay, so at price is equal to 40, MR is equal to MC. So there's no incentive for capacity to be expanded. Okay. When price is less than 40 for either one of them, there is no incentive to undercut, okay? Because there is no increase in demand because of the capacity constraint of 1.8. So in other words, if their price happens to be less than 40, walang mangyayari sa demand nila. Okay. Meanwhile, 40 is consistent with a marginal revenue equals marginal cost. So that's why that is our candidate Nash equilibrium at this point. And mukhang there's no incentive to move away from prices equal to 40, right? When your capacity is 1,800 and your capacity is, when your capacity is 1,800, marginal cost is 10, everyone is producing at capacity 1,800, and that's consistent with the price of 40. But there's an additional thing. There is no incentive to increase capacity as well, because MR is equal to MC at the capacity level. Okay, so now let's think about this. Okay, let's say that there is a deviation from capacity. Okay, so let's say that there's a deviation from capacity. Capacity 1 now is smaller at 1,700 and capacity 2 is at 1,800. So our total capacity is 17 plus 18, and that's equal to 3,500. So first, since we are in a homogeneous situation, right, homogeneous product that we're setting, the price has to be the same. And you can confirm what that common price is. And that common price is 41.67. Okay. So ginawa na natin yan. So hindi na, in fact, nakasulat na siya dito kung bakit siya 41.67. So each capacity is met as cap 1 plus cap 2 is equal to total quantity at price equals 41.67. Now, firm 1's marginal revenue, its residual marginal revenue is still 70 minus Q1 over 30. Correct? So my question to you is, why is that the marginal revenue? So again, I'm just repeating what we've already done. I'm just asking again, why did we get that as the marginal revenue? In words, not necessarily in math. So we're here. Why is firm one's marginal revenue or marginal revenue 1 equals to 70 minus Q1 over 30? Okay. Kung gawin natin true or false to, is it because the price is 41.67? Or is it because of the quantity of firm 2 is 1,800? Correct? And how did we get the inverse residual demand? Tama. Sabi ni Gillian, the quantity of firm 2 is still 1,800. So recall yung ginawa natin exercise. It's all dependent on kung ano yung gagawin, yung strategic output or strategic variable ng isang firm. Okay. So in this sense, because of marginal revenue, okay, because we're trying to compute for marginal revenue, the only thing that's important here is our guess as to what the other firms will produce. And that's how we will get the marginal revenue. Okay. So we know here that at price 41.67, everyone will get to sell at their capacity. So importante pa rin sa price 41 equals 67, yeah? Everyone will get to sell at their capacity, and that capacity happens to be 1,800 for the other one. So now we're testing the deviation from Nash equilibrium. We're saying what happens if firm 1 restricted, right, lowered its capacity? Will it want to do that? So yung sagot dito is, well, if everyone else is not changing, which is again yung assumption Nash equilibrium, right? My guess is my guess is still correct. I'm just trying to find out whether another action is better. And in this case, I'm trying to think about lowering my capacity to 1.7. But then if everyone else is still doing 1.8, we found that the marginal revenue is still 70 minus Q1 over 30. And we've calculated that at that marginal revenue, at my marginal cost of 10, Q1 star is 1,800. But this is greater than cap 1.7. So we have shown that it will choose to produce at the same capacity. Okay. Well, it will produce at 1.7 and it will want to exceed it, right? Now consider an excess of cap. Say cap 1 is 1,900. Okay. So because tumaas yung capacity, bababa tong presyo, and I will leave it to you. Okay, I will leave it to you to determine what that price will be under this situation. But the point is, capacity 2 is still 1.8. So yung marginal revenue is still, typo, 70 minus Q1 over 30 pa rin. And if the other firm is still producing at 1.8, then my marginal revenue is still 70 minus Q1 over 30. And the answer will still be Q1 star is 1,800. So deviations in my capacity from 1,800 is not as profitable as 1,800. Pero kung napapansin mo yung ginagawa natin ngayon, yung changing of capacity, what does that remind you of when you're changing capacity? What essentially are we also changing here? It's almost as if there's a bait and switch. We're not really using price anymore. Okay, because here price is again just determined from the total output. But what are we really doing here when we're choosing capacity constraints? Yes, sabi ni Leland, we're really doing quantity competition. So under capacity constrained, a situation of capacity constraint, ultimately we're just playing a game initially in first stage. And then in the second stage, we're just determining what the price will be. Okay. And that's the interesting result here, is that essentially we are still playing a game when there are capacity constraints. So in this case, we have a Nash equilibrium of 40. We've determined that the quantities are 1,800 each. And we've tried to deviate from that. And we've said that deviations are not profitable, or not as profitable as 1,800. Okay. So we first select quantities a la Cournot in the first stage game, and then the prices would just be consistent with those first stage choices. So kaya tayo babalik dun sa sinabi natin kanina from the start, right? That we said that capacity constraints by firms, okay, ano ba yan? The Nash equilibrium in the two-stage game will just be the Cournot-Nash equilibrium under that situation. Okay. So bumalik tayo ulit sa Cournot-Nash if it's capacity constraint across the board. Capacity constraint across the board. Any questions about any of these derivations? Okay, next. So the second reason bakit is by horizontal differentiation. Okay. So we will go back to our location model, our linear city from before. Okay. Where one firm is located at 0 and the other at 1. So babalik tayo dun sa line. Okay. And there's 0.0, which is one end of the street, and 0.1, which is the other end of the street. The firms are located there. So it's a duopoly still. Okay. So this resembles exactly yung ating horizontal differentiation model from before, except now our number of shops is 2. Now consumers live along this path. They have a willingness to pay V, okay, which is very familiar to everyone. Any distance from a firm is a deviation from their preferred location. You can think of this as physical distance or distance from their ideal product. So again, this mirrors exactly what we studied back then. Either way, consumer X, who lives in X, spends T times X if he purchases from firm 1, travels X times distance. So X has to be a fraction, right? And X is like if you were to travel from one end to the other. And T is the cost if you were to travel from where your position is to that fraction of the line, which is X. So ano tong T times X. So notice that if X is 1, meaning, what does that mean? You're traveling from one end to the street to the other, or you're deciding to sell to everyone. From moving from one end to the street to the other, then you're paying T. Okay. So if he purchases from firm 1, travels X distance, and it's T times 1 minus X from firm 2. Nag 1 minus X ka kasi bumaliktad lang siya, right? Because firm 2 is located in position 1. So there's an indifferent consumer again, located at XM. And what we're trying to do is figure out what defines the indifferent consumer at XM, which is just, he is indifferent between purchasing from firm 1, who is located in position 0, and his utility, his net utility is equal to that of purchasing also from firm 2, which is located in position 1. Okay, so that's how we define XM. Then we can solve for XM here, which I think is the next one. Sorry, ito. Are we already here? Yeah. And then your demand for firm 1 is basically XM times N. So remember, XM is a fraction. So you're saying the entire street has N people and you're selling to XM fraction of that. So that's the interpretation of this one. Okay. And now what we're saying is that XM is basically this one. Okay. So we'd like to, let's try to derive that. Okay. Can someone derive XM based on this one? Well, I'll just do it. B minus P1, sorry, minus P1 minus TX, wala nang superscript, equals V minus P2 minus T times 1 minus X. Oops. Sorry. Yun. So, mawawala si V kasi V is on the left and V is on the right. So the next line is just, oh, I need to put P1 here. So magkakaroon ka ng minus P1 minus TX equals minus P2 minus T1 minus X. Yeah, can everyone see that? I'm constantly worried na naglalag yung video, which I think it is. Can everyone see it? You can just say yes. Okay. And then we will just simplify and we'll solve for X because X is XM, your indifferent consumer. So, ililipat natin si P2 dito. P2 minus P1. Nauusi ako, P2. And then you're moving this negative TX to the other side. So now it's TX. And now it's going to be minus T plus TX. Can everyone see that? Yes, everyone can see it. Equals 2TX minus T. And then this just becomes P2 minus P1 plus T. So the minus T is we're moving to the other side. And then we're dividing both sides by 2T equals X. So can everyone see that? Okay, great. So yeah, please derive it yourselves to make sure that you got it. But this is essentially the location of the indifferent consumer as a function of P2 and P1 and T. Okay. So for my first question is this. Pag tinaasan ni firm 2 yung kanyang price, anong mangyayari sa indifferent consumer? If P2 goes up, what happens to the indifferent consumer? Now let's take a look at this. Maybe this looks better. This is the indifferent consumer. And we've said that the demand from firm 1 is basically the indifferent consumer times N. What happens to the demand for firm 1 when P2 goes up? Okay, when Jacob goes up, makes sense, right? If the other firm increases its price, then tataas yung demand ni firm 1. And similarly, if P1 goes up, what happens to the demand for firm 1? Goes down because of the minus sign here. Okay. Now, I invite you guys to do this on your own. You do 1 minus XM, and it will give you this. Essentially, what will happen is babaliktad yung position ng P2 and P1. Oops, it should be baliktad. Because kung ano yung positive dito maging negative, kung ano yung negative doon maging positive. Okay. Anyway, we will focus on P1 here. And you should write out the profit for firm 2. Okay, so first, what is this? Why is this the profit, right? This is the margin P1 minus C times, what is this? Yung demand for firm 1. So that's profit 1. And then you can write out the profit for firm 2. We will get the first order condition for firm 1 here. So let's do it together. Let's find the first order condition for this guy. It's just, it's doable. It's doable. So how do we do that? I think I should. Tasha. Let's try to come up with the first order code. First, let's write this out. P1, I'm gonna take out N because it's all gonna be times N anyway. And I'm gonna write here P1. Okay. And you can see that this is essentially P1 times P1 squared. And then times P1. So tatanggalin na natin ito. Minus this thing. But C. So I'm putting the parentheses here to make sure that the negative is hindi pa natin na-distribute. So you get the first derivative, the derivative with respect to its own strategic variable. What is the strategic variable here for firm 1? For firm 1, it's P1. So you're getting the derivative with respect to P1. So you're sort of changing P1, what's happening to profit. That's the intuition. So FOC equals, and then just copy this. So we're going to, so the first order condition from the first argument here is just P2. So we're just going to delete P1 here. This will be 2 P1 diba? And then this will be T. So that's from the first term, this one. Minus this guy. Again, I'm going to keep the negative here because we haven't distributed it yet. And then we're going to delete. We're going to keep this because P1 is not here. But then here, P1 is here. So we're going to delete that one. Okay. Oh, since P1 is not here, we're actually going to get rid of that. Because the derivative of this with respect to P1 is 0. Same thing with this, the derivative of CT with respect to P1 is 0. So matitira na lang dito is negative C. So a negative times a negative, that's a positive. So we can get rid of that. We can get rid of this. And it's just this. And this is equal to 0. So what you'll see here is that may natitira pa rin bang P2? Is there a P2 that's still remaining? Yes. Galing yun sa price, right? Galing yun sa price. Or sa total revenue, actually. Okay. The P2 here on the cost side, or the cost times quantity, goes away. But the P2 here still is there. So dun manggagaling yung reaction function, right? So si firm 1 is now going to react to firm 2 strategic variable, which is P2. So dito manggagaling yung, yung term na reaction function. Yeah. Kasi hindi mawawala si P2. If P2 disappeared from here, then P1 is just a function of T, which is costs, right? T and C, which is costs. But P2 is still there. So let's continue. We'd want to get, ano yung ending natin, guys? Ano yung gusto natin? What variable do we want to have on the left-hand side? It's P1. Yeah? And we want it to be a function of P2 and C and then T. That's why we wanted to react to P2. So all we want to do is to put P1 on one side, everything else on the other side, simplify. So that should be easy because this one is here. We can just move it to the other side. So this is basically P2 over 2T. That's this term. Plus T over 2T, which is 1/2. See, the T's cancel, 1/2. I'm just gonna put spaces para na ano. And then meron tayong C plus C over 2T, which is the other term. So there are 3 terms, right? 1, 2, and then 3. And then yung matitira, we're just gonna move it to the other side. And what's there is 2P1 divided by 2. Okay. So our work is not yet done. Sorry, this should be more like this. So here is already P1 isolated, and we're just going to continue to isolate it. So as you can see, the 2's here cancel out, so you can just do this, right? Okay. So all you'll need to do then is to multiply everything on the other side, on the left side, with T. So it's going to be P2 divided by 2. Ano pa? Bakit nawala yung T? Kasi yung T sa taas siya sa baba, they cancel out. Dito magkaka-T ka ulit. Kasi 1/2 times T is T over 2. And then C over 2. Kasi the T in the bottom goes away. Equals P1. So in cute math, P1 now is a function of, I really want to do like insert math, because I think that's cute. I want to insert the equation here. I'm going to say P1 is a function of P2, C and T. And it's a fraction here. First of all, ano yung nasa ilalim? What number is in the bottom? The common denominator. Okay, 2. And then, oops, people can't see it anymore. And then up top, you'll just write P2 plus T plus C. Oops, sorry. Plus T plus C. Equals P1. Cool. Okay, so what can we see here? P1 will react to P2. Okay, if P2 goes up, what will P1 do? Now we're focused on this one. It will go up. Okay, that's very interesting, right? When your competitor's price go up, that allows you to go up. Okay, but then hindi siya 1:1. Okay, your reaction is less. In this case, it's 1/2. Okay, so for example, if you get a derivative here, what happens if P2 goes up by 1 unit? P1 will go up by 1/2 unit. Okay. Same thing with T and C. If all of these things sort of add to your price, right? T and C will, in a sense, directly add to your price because these are your costs. But CP2 also allows you to increase your price. So if everyone has a high price, then that allows everyone else to have a high price. That's one of the lessons here in non-homogeneous goods, Bertrand. Okay. So meron na tayong elasticity, meron tayong substitution. You can see that here. Hindi siya, yung substitution dito is not infinite, right? If I lower my price P1, my demand will go up, but not infinitely. And that's because of the horizontal line idea. Now, that just because I have a lower price, that doesn't mean everyone will buy from me. It'll just mean that some people who are at the margin or close to the margin are now able to change or substitute to me and move from firm 2 to firm 1. But not everyone will do so. Okay, so this and this sort of encapsulate yung sinasabi natin kanina na change, which is yung non-infinite elasticity of demand, which is the real point here. Okay, so we have here the FOC for firm 1, the SOC for firm 2. Okay, so these are the two first order conditions. The Nash equilibrium is P1 equals P2 is equal to C plus T. So first I ask you guys, how would you then calculate this Nash equilibrium? How would you calculate this Nash equilibrium? You can just describe it in chat. It's fairly easy, so I'm not even sure we should waste time writing it down, but just describe to me how would you do it. Substitute best response function. Correct. So you just choose one best response function and put it in the other one. And then that's how you'll get P1 is equal to P2 is equal to C plus T. Okay. And it's here, this point here is exactly P1 is equal to P2, which is the intersection of both firms' best response function. Madali lang yung math, so I won't even, let's not even do it. Okay. So we note here the role of T. So ano ulit ang T? So magko-conceptual ulit tayo. What is T? T is a measure of differentiation. Okay, it's how far away from you are the consumer. By you, I mean the consumer. It's how far away the consumer is from the location of the product, which is sort of an idea of horizontal differentiation. Okay, meaning this is not the exact kind of, say, jeans that I want, right? Or exact kind of computer that I want. So another point is the position of the firms. Okay. Oh, wait, hold on. So if the T goes up, so let's go back here. So since T is the measure of differentiation, what will happen to our equilibrium pag tumaas ang T? Okay. So remember, T is like our measure of costliness, of how far away seeming I am from the firm. So a slightly higher T will lead to what? Correct, a higher price. It will allow firms to have a higher price, and this measure of differentiation is sort of a signal to a weaker competition when it comes to price. So it's a weaker differentiation in terms of price, because from the consumer's point of view, dalawa yung pinaglalabanan nila, right? Which is price and their position. Okay. So if T is this very important thing for them, then it's hard for competition to work in this case. And firms are essentially will have more and more market power. Okay, so differentiation will allow higher prices for everyone and will increase market power, right? That's the idea. Another point is the position of the firms. On the one hand, they want to locate centrally to attract the most customers. On the other hand, if firms locate close to each other, price competition will be very strong. Okay. So you can see our situation now is we've put the location of the firms as given. Yeah. Si firm 1 is nasa 0, si firm 2 is nasa 1. But what if we can consider like a two-stage game where first they decide where to stay and then they decide what price to charge. Okay. So nasa what price to charge pa lang tayo. So you can consider a two-stage game like that. Now, having went to grad school, this is actually not a very easy problem. Okay, if you want to free up or endogenize the idea is endogenization, endogenize the location of the stores or the firms in product space, then it becomes fairly complicated. Okay, so we're going to skip it. However, we'd like to say that there are two opposing forces here. Okay. I mean, the math is fairly complicated without really telling you anything more than this next bullet, okay, which is this. On the one hand, firms want to locate centrally, okay, para bumaba yung transportation cost. Okay. So you can see that, kita rin natin yan from the earlier chapter. If there was only one store, that would be great, and that one store would locate in the center, okay. Now, on the other hand, if firms locate close to each other, competition will be very strong. So once they locate very close to each other, they will compete too strongly. And then if competition is too strong, then they won't like it because prices will go down. Okay. So saan sila pupunta? And then once they've decided where they'll go, ano yung presyo nila? So that is a fairly complicated situation. At this point, I can tell you that, for example, in a street from 0 to 1, if you were the monopolist, you would locate where? Do you guys still remember if there are two stores? If you remember, they will locate at 1/4 and 3/4. So that's kind of where they also want to go because that will tend to maximize their joint profits. Okay. But it's not very clear that they'll go there because there is this sort of business stealing effect na hindi symmetric, which we don't have to get into. Again, these are just the two different forces attracting or affecting their location. Okay. On the one hand, they want to locate centrally to increase their demand. Okay. On the other hand, they don't want to both increase centrally because that means bababa yung presyo nila. So our last bullet here, our last slide, strategic complements or substitutes. So strategic complements are upward sloping reaction functions, and if they're downward sloping, they're called strategic substitutes. So an increase in cost of firm 2, like this, will increase both P1 and P2. Okay, but P2 rises more than P1. Okay. You can check that. Okay, confirm that. So pag nag-increase yung costs, tataas yung presyo for both firms in Bertrand. Dito naman sa Curno, what's gonna happen? Can someone describe? So this one represents a higher cost in firm 2. It will shift in yung residual, well, not residual, yung kanyang reaction function in Cournot competition, pababa. What's going to happen in Cournot? Tataas yung quantity ni firm 1, the one with the lower costs. Bababa ang quantity ni firm 2. Okay, decrease in quantity of firm 2. There'll be an increase in quantity in firm 1. On the face of it, it's not clear what will happen to market price kasi bababa yung isa, tataas yung isa. But here, price will be a little bit higher than before and total output is lower. So you can see, bababa ito, tataas to. Yung decrease ng Q2 is higher than the increase in Q1. So therefore, total output is lower. And if total output is lower, the price is higher. Okay. Both will lead to higher prices. The one on the left and the one on the right will lead to higher prices. Pero mas matindi ang higher prices saan? Dito. Because in this case, both of them will want to increase prices and they'll settle with a higher equilibrium price. With Cournot, parang there are offsetting effects. One will decrease their quantity and one will increase the quantity as a response. And therefore, the total change in price or the higher price is less than it could be. Yun. So that's why people have said that price competition here, okay, there's in a sense less competition here because an increase in the cost of one will lead to the prices of everyone. Okay, so there's in a sense less competition in Bertrand, given this horizontal differentiation. Okay. But the term strategic complements or substitutes relates to yung slope ng best reaction, ng reaction functions, which leads to that sort of conclusion that there's sort of less competition here. Okay, because you'd expect pag tumaas yung cost ni firm 2, maglalaban sila, di ba? Firm 1 will undercut. But in this case, firm 1 will want to increase its price as well, not decrease it. So in a sense, we're in the opposite situation of the basic Bertrand, wherein pag nag-increase yung cost ni firm 2 at nagtaas ng presyo sa firm 2, ano mangyayari sa basic Bertrand? Everyone will buy from firm 1. Right? Under the basic elasticity is very high Bertrand. But in this case, elasticity is not so low. Everyone has some local market power and everyone will want to increase its price. Okay, I guess that's it. If there are any questions, I'll stay for a couple of minutes. And then, yeah, I'll just upload this video to YouTube at the end. And then I'll try to figure out why this volume thing is not working. Why this mic thing is not working. Malabo. Okay. Bye. Happy weekend.
Hi, sir.
Oh, may narinig ako kanina na mic. Pwede magsalita kayo?
Sir.
Isa
Hello po.
lang.
Hello.
Ayun. May naririnig na akong mic ngayon. Ba't ganun? Anyway, I'm glad it's fixed. Who's speaking, please?
Jacob po. I would like to ask na po something about this paper natin. Yung 2 papers po.
Oh, go ahead. Sige.
Kailangan pa po ba namin i-submit yung topic po na yung 2 paper? Kailangan pa po namin i-forward.
Kailangan namin, ano yan? Sorry?
I-send pa po kung ano po yung papers na pipiliin namin.
Hindi na.
Beforehand. Ano nito po?
Pero syempre siguro pipiliin niyo yung isa from the first tranche, yung market power papers. Either si Abrenica or si Deloper. I'm thinking kaya niya si Igami, pero ikaw, bahala ka if you want. Pero we're still formally gonna talk about Igami and cartels next week.
So is it possible po if ang mapipili po is Igami and Abrenica po? Or hindi?
Sure, go ahead.
Ay,
Kung
wala
kaya
na
niyo
ba
na,
po?
kung kaya niyo nang sagutin, I think si Igami kaya na because I focused on on oligopoly core no competition there. So may mga questions tayo on core no competition. And at this point, tapos na tayo sa core no competition.
Alright, sir. So possible po na dalawa sila, si Abrenica and Igami yung PDN for the 2 papers to be submitted.
Yes, but on December 9, if I'm not mistaken, December 9, isa lang ang sasubmit. Wag muna yung dalawa. Yung pangalawa, January
po.
pa. Di ba?
Alright, sige sir.
Pili ka lang ng isa,
Thank you, sir.
then yun ang gawin mo.
Alright po. Thank you po, sir. Thank you.
Thank you too. And I'm glad the mic is working. Yay! Okay. What happened? How did the mic work? So weird. Sabi ni Leland, Sir, question. If firms have different marginal costs under Bertrand, would it be possible for the firm with cheaper marginal costs to earn profits? Correct, yes. Under basic Bertrand to, di ba? Yeah. Because the only idea here is yung marginal costs nung isa, right? Kung mas mababa yung marginal cost ng isang firm, it's likely the Nash equilibrium will be siya na lang yung matitira. Isa-set niya yung price equal to the marginal cost of the next best alternative, and then it's going to be earning its own profits based on the fact that lower yung price nila. So it'll be the only one there. People will want to come in if they people will try to come in, but they cannot seem to come in because yeah, parang they'll charge a price slightly lower than the marginal cost of the more expensive firm, and then they'll gain the margin based on their lower marginal cost. Correct. But it's still the case that the price is sort of pushed down because kung tinaasan nila, may papasok. Okay. Yeah. Of the next highest firm, for example, is 10. Correct, yeah. Something like that. Can you check your mic? Because I'm so curious kung nag-work yung mic mo. Nag-work ba yung mic mo? Since you're here, I'd like to test it.
Hello.
Ayun, nag-work. Ayun. Ano
Hello.
kayang ginawa ko? Pinaglaruan ko lang yung settings, pero ngayon nag-work na siya. So I'm happy and I've solved that. Yun lang. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.